Hello YouTube, this is Kiryu904, and today I'm actually going to be reviewing more than one movie. Okay, since the newest horror movie Rings is going to be released in February, and will also be the third part of the American Ring series, I've decided to take a look at all the previous ones that came before it. First, I'll talk a bit about the plot of each film, and then give my thoughts on other aspects of them. Also, I'd like to let you guys know that these reviews will contain spoilers. With that said, let's start off with the first movie from 2002, The Ring, which was written by Aaron Kruger and directed by Gore Verbinski. It focuses on a journalist named Rachel Keller investigating this mysterious videotape that kills people 7 days after they've watched it. After watching it herself, she enlists the aid of her ex-boyfriend, a video analyst named Noah Clay, in her search to uncover the origin of the video, and makes a copy of it for him to watch as well. Unfortunately, Rachel's young son, Aiden Keller, manages to view the tape himself, which makes her even more eager to find a way to escape the 7-day deadline. As they look further into it, while also experiencing some supernatural phenomena along the way, their investigation leads them to Moeska Island, where a girl by the name of Samara Morgan used to live. It turns out she possessed a psychic ability called Nensha, also known as thoughtography, which had unfortunately affected the minds of her adopted parents, Anna and Richard Morgan. She was then sent to a psychiatric hospital for some time before eventually being released. Once she arrived back home, however, Richard had her move into their barn so she would be unable to harm either him or Anna. Unfortunately, a resentful Samara responded by using her powers to drive some of the Morgan's horses insane and leap over the edge of a cliff, an action which greatly distressed Anna. Sometime later, Samara was taken to Shelter Mountain, where Anna incapacitated her, then tossed her down a well. She managed to survive for 7 days at the bottom before she died. Years later, an inn was built over the well, and Samara's spirit somehow created the cursed videotape in order to spread her misery that she experienced while she was alive. Rachel and Noah soon find the well, and also her body within it, just as Rachel's time runs out. However, she doesn't die. The two are initially relieved, thinking that removing Samara from the well has broken the curse. Unfortunately, the next day, her ghost climbs out of Noah's TV in his apartment and kills him. After finding him dead, a distraught Rachel wonders why she survived and Noah hadn't, but quickly realizes that it was because she had copied the tape and showed it to him. She then helps her son create a copy for someone else to watch, and this is where the film ends. Now, some of the things that I had to say about The Ring are stuff that I've said before in my top 5 favorite horror movies video. However, I do have more thoughts on it other than what I've stated back then. Okay, this movie did a pretty good job at building up tension, and had some nicely done atmospheric moments. Not only was it a good scary story, it was an intriguing mystery as well. It was neat discovering various things about the contents of the videotape, and also the backstory of the girl who created it, Samara Morgan. The main characters were nothing really that special, but they were better than those from many other horror movies I've seen. Also, Aiden was kinda creepy. He said some creepy stuff too. I thought all of the acting throughout the film was fine. Most of the special effects were okay, but there were some that I thought were done very well, like this one scene where Rachel pauses the cursed tape and somehow pulls a fly out of the video. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer was really good, and most of it sounded unique. And that's pretty much all I've got to say about The Ring, which means it's time to take a look at the sequel from 2005, The Ring 2, which was written by Aaron Kruger and directed by Hideo Nakata, who also directed the original Ring from 1998 that inspired The Ring. This one takes place 6 months after the first film, and focuses on Rachel and Aiden trying to move on with their lives ever since the cursed tape predicament. Unfortunately, Rachel discovers that a copy has turned up within their area, but she manages to find it and burn it. After this, though, Aiden starts to exhibit strange behavior and his health soon declines. Rachel then finds out that he is possessed by Samara's spirit, but after a supernatural occurrence, she is forced to hospitalize him. She then sets out to find a way to save her son, and even asks for help from Samara's biological mother, Evelyn, who who had been placed in an asylum after she tried to drown her daughter when she was a baby. Rachel returns home and finds Aiden, who had escaped the hospital he was in. Then, using some advice that Evelyn gave her, she successfully expels Samara's spirit from his body. After Rachel finally seals Samara away, she reunites with Aiden, who is back to normal, and the film ends. Okay, I ultimately found this sequel to be inferior to its predecessor. The story is quite average for a horror movie. Someone ends up possessed by a supernatural entity, and one or more friends or loved ones search for a way to remove said entity from them. The Ring 2 was certainly not as suspenseful or unnerving as the first film, and the scares throughout were pretty predictable. For me, the only positive thing about this movie was when they delved further into Samara's history. It was fascinating learning about her life before living with the Morgans, as well as the mystery of who her father might have been. There were some new characters introduced here, but the only one I found interesting was Samara's mother, Evelyn. The rest were kind of forgettable. The acting in this film was adequate, like with the first, although the same couldn't be said for the special effects. They were bad, especially in one scene where Rachel and Aiden are driving home when they're attacked by this large group of deer that are all CG. It looked terrible. The soundtrack by Henning Lohner and Martin Tillman was good, but sounded very similar to the one from The Ring. Later on, there was an unrated version of this movie released on DVD, which had some reinserted footage that was removed and some altered scenes. However, there were only a small amount of changes and additions in this version, and they weren't exactly that major, so this cut isn't really all that different from the theatrical release. Alright, those are my thoughts on The Ring 2. Definitely not as good as The Ring, and even though it had some interesting stuff, I'd rather watch the first one again. Now, there's only one film left to talk about, which is a short film called The Rings. Yeah, I know, it's a bit confusing since that's also the title of the new movie. It was included with a re-release of The Ring on DVD in 2005, and takes place shortly before the events of the sequel. It follows this kid that appears at the start of The Ring 2 named Jake, who's involved with this group where each member watches the cursed tape to try and find out how close they can get to the 7-day deadline before copying it and showing it to another member. It turns out their group is just one of many, known as rings, that do the exact same thing. Members who've watched the tape also document each of their experiences as they get closer to the deadline, and even post them on the internet. After watching the tape himself, Jake begins to document his own experiences. However, they eventually turn frightening as he approaches the 7th day, which causes him to desperately search for someone to show his copy to when the next member in his ring refuses to watch it. This short film was pretty intriguing. I liked seeing this certain group trying to figure out the meaning of the cursed tape that was passed on to various people. I recommend anyone who's a fan of the Ring movies check it out if they haven't already. And those, everyone, were my thoughts on all of the American Ring films up until this point. And I'm interested in how the upcoming third installment will turn out. I'd also like to know what all of your opinions on this franchise are. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this review video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Goodbye, and have a good day, everyone.